Hello, welcome to the morning news. Mexican Senator Angelica de la Peña announced Thursday that the 20 farm workers arrested in San Quentin, Baja California, would not be charged with any crime and therefore released. The head of the Senate's Human Rights Commission also said the farm workers would be allowed to form a union. This is apart from all the other 13 agreements that they reached after a meeting with Mexican authorities. There is no word regarding pay raises yet, but De La Peña said this would be discussed in coming days. The farm workers have been protesting for months. Their main demand is salary increases as they are paid only $7 a day for 12-hour shifts. We continue in Mexico, where information and transparency authorities have ordered the publication of the Ayotzinapa crime report. Our correspondent Clayton Khan has the story.
This week, a commissioner of Mexico's transparency agency ordered the Attorney General's office to make public declarations of 20 military officials who had an alleged role in the September 4th disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students.
They must deliver the published version of the 36 statements of the military personnel and extend one who is immersed in the preliminary investigation.
The public official is directly challenging the Attorney General's argument that the information must be kept classified so as to protect other public servants, affirming that the Ayotzinapa case is of national and international interest.
Which notes that it cannot be registered as reserved when it is about an investigation of grave violations of fundamental rights or crimes against humanity.
While human rights advocates applaud the decision, they lament that the struggle to find truth and justice in the Ayotzinapa case requires confronting what they say is a lack of official cooperation.
All the different departments of the Mexican state should officially provide all the information what is withheld, not necessarily without petition. If there was truly a desire to clarify the case and find the truth, that's what they should do, instead of having these great battles involving international resources, calling on other agencies to apply pressure.
One of these organizations is the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, tasked to independently investigate the case. In their third report, they expressed concern over the state's, quote, fragmentation of the investigation.
We have made very concrete recommendations so that hopefully will produce decisions towards this accumulation in the case.
Meanwhile, one of the primary and constant demands of the families of the missing students has been a transparent investigation of soldiers of the 27th Infantry Battalion military base in Iguala, Guerrero, where the students were attacked.
On December 26 and 27, they were also complicit in the violent events that occurred here in the city of Iguala.
Although speculation of the Mexican military's participation continues to permeate, it is still unclear when and if the Attorney General's office will make public the Army's statements. Clayton Khan, Telesur, Mexico.
And also in Mexico, another mayoral candidate has been shot dead. The Morena Party candidate of the municipality of the central state of Michoacán, Enrique Hernandez, was shot and killed minutes after a campaign rally. The unidentified gunman injured 3 other persons. A few days ago, a mayor candidate in Guerrero State was also killed by an armed group. Mexico will hold local elections in June 7 in various states across the country. The president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, warned there is an international strategy to destabilize the progressive governments of South America. He said there is a permanent strategy in place by sectors of the opposition in Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, Bolivia, and Ecuador to undermine their governments. Correa said mainstream media are also involved. He called on the unity of the progressive administrations in the region against these political movements. Desperate around-the-clock efforts continued in northwestern Colombia to rescue miners trapped in a flooded gold mine since Wednesday. 4 dead bodies have been rescued. Originally, 17 miners were reported missing, but the Red Cross has confirmed that there were 15 miners trapped. 13 of them have been identified. These squad family members were anxiously waiting for rescue efforts to be successful.
It's necessary to move some extraction pumps, which is a part of the plan that we have on a national level. And we hope that with extra support and the daily work that we will closer to where the miners are.
The Chilean government has condemned what they called unjustified violence that killed 2 young men during a student rally in Valparaiso City Thursday. The rally was one of several throughout the country, in which students are demanding greater transparency over funding in the education sector. Further investigations are underway to determine the circumstances of the shootings. The Ministry of the Interior said police were not involved in the deaths.
According to the first police investigations, the person responsible for the deaths has no link to the police forces that were close to the student march at the port.
Cuba and U.S. negotiators are scheduled to meet again in Washington next week to discuss the opening of embassies in each other's capitals. Earlier this week, President Raul Castro announced that the diplomatic missions would open May the 29th after the White House removed the island's name from its list of sponsors of terrorism. The meeting will focus on practical measures needed to reopen the embassies. President Obama announced April the 14th that Cuba would be removed from the list.
I can confirm that a new round of negotiations between the governments of the United States and Cuba regarding diplomatic aspects will take place.
Calm apparently returned to the streets of Burundi's capital of Bujumbura after authorities claim they had arrested 3 generals for their role in an attempted coup following a day of heavy fighting. President Pierre Nkurunziza returned to the country after a visit to Tanzania to deal with the unrest. Thousands of people celebrated the bid for a coup. Violence erupted after army officials reported the coup had been thwarted. The military was divided and engaged in heavy fighting. The unrest began shaping after the president announced he would run for an unconstitutional 3rd term.
They had driven into the station, RTMB public television and radio station, using a military tank, and we burned it. We killed 12, 35 were injured, 40 surrendered. We arrested 9, and 4 of our soldiers were injured.
At least 50 Palestinians were wounded in a blast that in northern Gaza, apparently due to an unexploded bomb launched by Israel last summer during their attack on the Palestinian enclave. Many children and women were among the people injured. Israel killed over 2,100 people during their 50-day attack on Gaza. 20,000 homes and thousands of buildings were destroyed. The attacks plunged Gaza into a humanitarian crisis. In sports news, 4 River Plate players were taken to hospital after they were sprayed with an irritant by fans of Boca Juniors. The Libertadores Cup match was suspended at halftime. The last 16-second leg tie between the Buenos Aires clubs at Boca's Bombonera Stadium was deadlocked at 0-0 when the incident occurred in the tunnel as the players came out for the second half. TV pictures showed Leonardo Ponzio and Leonel Vangioni rubbing their eyes. It is unclear when the game will be resumed. And on a sadder note, the legendary blues guitarist B.B. King has died in Las Vegas. The 89-year-old musician took the blues from rural Yucca joints to the mainstream and influenced a generation of rock guitarists from Eric Clapton to Stevie Ray Vaughan. King was known for his deep, resonant singing voice, and despite having what he calls stupid fingers, an immediately recognizable guitar sound. His unique style of trilling the strings with a fluttering left-hand vibrato helped shape early rock. Perhaps one of his most famous songs was Let the Good Times Roll, and we invite you to listen to it. More on these on our website, televisiotv.net/English. Thank you for watching and have a nice weekend.